Hello, everyone. Just 1 second. Some people are having some issues joining, and then we can get started. Okay. So, hello, everyone. Welcome. It's nice to see some new names and also some that are repeating. I hope that you find today's session very valuable. We are very lucky to have Dr. Gianluigi Giovagnoli and Simone Perillo from the Italian Federation presenting today the case about the horse as an athlete. So we will do that. So we will start with their presentation, then we will have a Q&A, and then we will move on to the presentation about FEI Solidarity and the new program for rider education program. I don't want to take too much of your time. Most of you have been here in the previous session, but basically the idea of NextGen is to kind of create a platform where national federations can share their experience, their programs, and basically any kind of project that has worked so that other national federations can implement and also learn from the process of this implementation. So without further ado, thank you, Dr. Gianluigi and Simone. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everybody, and thanks to the EEF for these initiatives and Luzbella for her effort in coordinating all of us. It is, I think, very valuable for the European Equestrian Federation to allow the sharing of expertise, experiences among all of our federations for improving not only the collaboration but also the knowledge sharing. Having said that, the presentation that we wanted to show with you is going to be very brief. We will do a bit of background on what has been achieved and what could be then the way forward. As some of you may already know, in 2023, a law with the definition of horse athlete entered officially into force in the Italian legal system. Basically, until then, domestic animals were classified only under two categories: pets, dogs, cats, and similar, and or otherwise agricultural animals, with all consequences upon regulation. Our horses, therefore, belonged somehow to the definition of agricultural animals, with some specific law changes in transportation or in veterinary measures and things like that, but it was always a mixed definition of the horses. Thanks to this achievement, now we have a precise definition of sport horses as horse athlete into the legal system, and this is a big advantage for what we are going to see. They were, as you know, the history of the horse is deeply linked with the history of humankind, and it has evolved with us in war, in transport, in agriculture. But nowadays, in our world, the main role for horses is to be in sport, and now they are developing also a fundamental co-therapeutic role in the so-called hippotherapy. But with the definition of sport horse, we go beyond a simple classification, but we enter into an ethical and legal paradigm that basically is recognize the horse as an athlete, as the humans. That is something that within our federations we all know it's true. We all know that horse and riders are on the same footing for us, but to see it encapsulated in law with the same value, it is really important, we think, and could be a model to be applied at other national level and in perspective also at international level. The criteria for these definitions are very simple, because somehow they are already within the remit of our federation, so there isn't much of an effort. an horse to be classified as an athlete horse needs to be registered to be a registered equid, and all EU countries can achieve that easily. But you know, passport and the microchip identifications are spreading all over the world. So this is a model that is not bound to be only applied within Europe. An ID card of the horse. 2, it needs to be excluded from the food chain. As you know, horses can be classified as destined to food afterwards or not. Under this law, once a horse is classified for permanently excluded from food production, is the second criteria to be classified as athlete horse. Third, in our case, we have the registration within the federation. So as we have a FEI level, the FEI horses, at national level, you also have the registration membership of horses within your federations. So in the moment that an horse meets these 3 criteria, it can be legally defined as an equine athlete. As you see, these 3 criteria are quite simple, easy to be achieved, and do not require an extra effort on all of us. So all horses have an ID card as human beings. All horses that practice sport, at least in Italy, are excluded from the food chain. 3, as a human being, as an ID card, but then becomes member of the federation. Also, horses need to become members of the federation. Once these 3 criteria are met, an horse in Italy is considered to be an horse athlete. This has been a big achievement for 2 targets. On the one hand, and you see at the time, there's been quite a good attention from international media. It helped us in all those challenges against equestrian sports, the so-called social license issues. Here, the best argument that we say and we use is that, look, we are in front of everybody in the protection of horses, because we consider them as athletes at the same level as human beings. So no more the concept of using horses, but the concept of doing sport together. So we find it a very powerful argument in replicating to all those accusing us, attacking us on the use, misuse, abuse of horses in sport. Second, it is an instrument that is allowing us at national and hopefully at the international level also to introduce even more effective legislations, because whilst before the concept of horse athlete was somehow, as I said, in between the different domain, property, Ministry of taxation issues, and then health, veterinary issues, transportation issues, and so on. With this, you can define you are transporting an athlete, and you can then have a consistent set of laws consisting with this new status of the horse. These 2 targets, I think, are those that should bring all of us to push into this direction, because we are finding it very effective at the national level to use it as a counter arguments, as I said, against the animalist association, and instead in positive lobbying toward the government. Now, on this slide, I leave the floor to Dr. Gianluigi Giovagnoli, who is the head of the Italian Federation Veterinary Department.
Thank you, Simone. In our vision, we reject a simple command response view of equestrian sport and reframe it as bidirectional relation interaction. Neuroscientific and psychological study document emotional resonance, social learning, and context-sensitive interspecies communication. The horse should therefore be understood as a moral and relational subject and active partner in co-performing athlete action. Partnership rests on biomechanical timing, intensity, and directionally, but also on emotional attunement, trust, care, and dignity. In my opinion, like the most generous people in our life, horses often give more than we realize and are too often taken for granted. Every one of us can remember in our mind when there is a refusal to do the action by the horses. For example, they refusal the jump, they refusal some other athletic movement. When there is this refusal, the horses say no. When the horses say no, the meaning is that in his brain he find not energy, power, coordination, or something to do it. He explain his individuality. This is quite important for us because horses is a subject that take decision, evaluation, and iterations. So this partner is a co-producer in the results. It is not by the rider only. It is by both of them. So the definition by companion at pet logic is very, very poor because center emotional comfort, private bond, and role-based legal protection, and can collapse very different animal function into a single domestic category and risk the reinforcing an anthropocentric view in which animal matter mainly for human needs. In athlete horse logic, we define the horse through legal identity, welfare, duty, and participation in formally regulated sport. Connect the equine athlete to Olympic values, friendship, inclusion, mutual respect, peace, and fairness, and more other ones. Recast the horse and legal recognized sentient coagent in ethically regulation interspecies alliances main result we are proud to do it. Thank you, Simone.
Thank you.
You
So
can go, Simone.
these are, let's say, also scientific reasoning and value reasoning behind this. It's not an easy path in the sense that here we put a sort of timeline in what we have achieved. And we started in 2018 with the obligation that all horses registered within the Italian Federation had to be not intended for human consumption. Maybe in some disciplines like jumping or other, this is already a fact because, let's say, in Italy, if you were not for food, if a horse was excluded from the food chain, it was easier some veterinary checks. But in other disciplines was not necessarily the case. In smaller ones like driving and things like that, that there was a use to anyway use them at the end as a food chain. Anyway, after winning some internal resistance in 2018, we actually made compulsory for all registered horses not to be in the food chain. Then in 2019, the government started a process of a so-called sport reform. Then it was blocked 1 year because of COVID, 1.5 years. because of COVID, but let's say, so this 2019, 2021 could have been shorter without COVID. In that case, it was a comprehensive reform of sports. So was talking about football, tennis, all sports. We managed to lobby those articles specifically aimed at the recognition of horses. This can vary from country to country. In some countries, there might be a minister of sport. In some countries, there might not be. So, I mean, each of you knows how is the institutional system in your country. But in our case, anyway, through lobbying with the Minister of Health and the Ministry of Sport, we managed to have in 2021 this legislative decree that stated the principles. It took them other 2 years, not for the horses, but for football and other things. It took a long way for actual implementation, but in 2023, finally, this became officially law, fully effective, and the consequences are now positive in the years to come. In June last year, they are now against the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Sport have agreed a vet fitness examination that once per year, as per human athlete, the horses have to go through. And more is to come again in the use of animals in sporting activities. Somehow at the beginning this can seem more burdensome in terms of legislation, but once it is in place, you actually obtain a very strong voice because you're advocating the use of horses for a sport activity. In Italy, we have also, the Palio di Siena, for instance, traditional events that are outside the domain of the federation. And in those cases, the regulations are much more stringent, much more difficult. So if you achieve the concept of your horses to be really athlete horses, then the subsequent lobbying with the various institutions is really a good benefit. Now, basically, what we're saying is this: if you get the status of the horse as an athlete, you can deal with the two problems that in a daily life all federations have to face: legislations and evaluation on animal welfare, bioethics, and things like that. From countries to countries, you have more or less active challenges on the use of horses in sports, but this is spreading anyway across the world. Just to make you an example, yesterday it was the national law Festa della Repubblica for the 80 years of the Italy as a republic. A few days before, the Carabinieri, our police, had an accident with some horses, and immediately animalists started challenging the use of horses in the Carabinieri traditional parade because they say the animals should not be used. This kind of sensitivity is spreading all over. Well, if we say that we have horses as athletes, I think it's a good answer against all those people challenging our sport. And as I said, it is also helping us in dealing with the various administrations that at different level regulate national, regional, sometimes even municipal level regulate the sport activity. To conclude, we think it's a good ethical way of presenting our partnership with the horses, and this is, I think, what I think should be the best outcome that we can achieve. It's a full recognition as a sporting partner and not just as registered animals within our database that we will really put on the same level as human athletes. I haven't much more to say, so thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Simone and Dr. Gianluigi. It was, I think, really interesting, and I think this is something that, as you showed at the beginning, that a lot of press picked up worldwide, because I think it's exactly as you say, it's more than an argument than, oh, we treat horses differently. It's really like law. So I just want to open the floor if there are any questions. You were very clear, Simone. No questions about this topic. If not,
only one question. It's a really important matter for us, and it would be one of our main aims, perhaps, for next years to try to get it in Spain. And if it would be possible to share with us all the information you have, not only the presentation, but also all the information you have, it would be really, really interesting for us. Simone, thank you.
Sure, thank you, Venancio. Yeah, we'll do. What we can do is to share with you the full, we have already also the translation, the articles and the translation in English of the articles, so that Lisbella can be circulated together with the presentation to all NFs.
Perfect, thank you.
I will do that. And just one comment on this also is that at the end of the day, also when we look at European framework from European Commission, European Parliament, there are certain parts of budget that are allocated to sports. So it's much easier to be able to assign this kind of budget if all across Europe, horses are recognized as athletes and are inside the part of the sport, because now there's always the discussion of, maybe agricultural funding or maybe other kinds of funding are more available for horses, but this would strictly say, no, this is sport. So that would be, I think, really helpful if if all of Europe were to follow the steps of the Italian Federation in really making horses a kind of athletes per law. Any other questions?
Bella, can I adding a comment to your consideration? I think that the European Commission give money for the sport because the sport is very useful to educate people to the effort, to follow the rules, all Olympic value. The horse animal emphasize this point because to have a relationship with the horses is more deeper education than the other one sport. So this is the meaning that we have, in my opinion, to emphasize also to obtain this kind of resource, because it's very useful for young people or for all people that make sport to feel better and to learn better themselves and learn better how relationship with the other ones and respect the other ones. Thank you.
I agree 100%. And in fact, at the EEF, we developed one Erasmus Plus funded project that was exactly on focusing this on how horses help create the leaders of the future, because they gain skills that no other sport. It's harder. The empathy that you develop with horses is different than what you do with football or other sports.
Yeah, in fact, in the military academy, the equestrian is the only one sport that is always present also for Navy academy.
It shows really the importance. Any other questions? If not, I actually have a question. You were showing on the slides that there would be a yearly veterinary assessment. Is this already pre-established? And also, if yes, how is this gonna look like? Is this gonna happen in competition? Like, is a normal just horse inspection consider a assessment, or what kind of assessment would it be?
The aspect is a result of a large amount of knowledge. Every one of us know how much important is the relationship, and there was some newspaper that demonstrated that horses can recognize our face, our emotion, and they trust in people that they know. They don't trust in people that they don't know. So they have the memory and they have the emotion to trust or to don't trust. So there are so many large amount of knowledge altogether to be the effort of this law. So now the law simply recognizes what is the end of, I think, 20 years of knowledge that was improved in the last time.
Thank you very much. One more questions. If not, I'm gonna thank Simone and Dr. Gianluigi. Thank you very, very much for your time and for your fantastic presentation. And I will, like always, I will share with you all the documents that are facilitated from their side, as well as the recording and also the presentations. So thank you very much for very insightful presentation. And now I will move on to present the FEI Solidarity Catalogue. So I hope you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? No. 1 second. There?
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you. So for those of you, sorry, I just realized I didn't introduce myself. My name is Luz Bella Lendinez. I'm Sport Development Officer at the European Equestrian Federation. And we decided to have this presentation today because there's an important deadline coming now for the FEI Solidarity Catalogue. So for those of you that maybe don't know about the FEI Solidarity, this is a department within the FEI. Soon it's going to be called FEI Solidarity and Development. And the mission of this department is to support and assist NFs and continental federations through different programs. And one of the main tools for this support is the FEI Solidarity Catalogue, which we will go briefly through. They consider that there are 4 pillars for development. One is national federation, athlete, coaches, and values. I will explain a little bit more about those briefly, but the way that they provide support to different national federations is through it can be through technical programs, through consultancy services, or financial support. One important thing to mention is that it doesn't matter what stage of national federation is on. If you want to have access to this support and this kind of help or funds, you just need to have a clear idea of where your national federation is at. And here we have, for example, on the bottom, we have the different pillars of this catalog, but then we see what kind of programs you can apply for based on whatever level your national federation is at, whether you are starting to structure it or whether it's already developing, or you want to, really go in a discipline, go to an elite level. So then would be reinforcement. So there are really a wide type of programs that you can apply for. So now I will, if you say okay, My national federation, we need support to improve this dressage, or we really need to start from scratch, or we really have athletes that are almost on a regional championship level, then you can still apply for this kind of support. I will just some things that you need to consider as a national federation is that your application needs to reflect your priorities. So you cannot just say, oh, it would be nice to do an educational sport event in this discipline. It needs to make sense and be coherent within your framework and your strategy and your plan. So for the application, I will explain how to apply. There's a kind of a form, and you need to explain how the program fits your vision for the sport and how it would support the development of this discipline. You need to show the capacity to deliver the program. Obviously, you would need one person that would be responsible for coordinating when so not just doing the application, but then you need to coordinate with the tutor when they're gonna come, where they're gonna visit, talk to the clubs, to put them together and kind of like coordinate the logistics of how this course is actually going to happen and the communication. You need to also, if possible, demonstrate that there's been previous initiatives. So for example, one example, very concrete, is Croatia. They had been working for a long time to be able to have a team for dressage junior European Championship in junior. And they actually managed last year, and they were very proud about this, but they said, we really want to be able to continue this during time, not just to be one-time thing, but actually that this is happening consistently. So they asked FEI Solidarity for support, and they received it because it made sense, but they had shown that they had done previously, and they had invested previously quite time and work and resources in being able to reach this level. And then also very important to describe what the challenge is. So you need to explain why you would like to implement and what this would solve within your national federation. So if you don't have, for example, a coach's education or certification system, why this would be important. Maybe there's not enough education, or maybe for the coaches, or maybe it's hard to really say on which level a coach is. So this would give you a framework, but you need to explain why this would be important for the national federation. So the reason why we decided to add this presentation today is because the deadline is on the 1st of July. So, the 1st of July each year. So now you still have a month approximately to go through the catalog, discuss also internally in your national federation, like where could we have some support, what are our priorities right now, where are we missing, whether it's knowledge or the resources to achieve something, and look at the catalog and say, oh, this is matching what we need. Let's go, let's do this, and send an application. It's really straightforward, the process. So you go, it's all online. You go, I will show you the website later. And it's also on the resources that I've added at the end of the presentation. But you just log in this is important actually. Only the Secretary General of each national federation can log in with the FEI ID and submit the application. So it can be kind of put together between different committees and discussed, but only the Secretary General will be able to submit this application online. So they go on the catalog, they find at the bottom of each program, there will be online application, and they can just go click on it and apply for this program. So there is, however, some projects that are not affected by this deadline. These are Biosecurity Education Program, National Federation's IT platform, Scholarship for Equine Veterinarians, and technical courses for coaches. So if you say this month or in 2 months or in 3 months, this is actually, we want to implement the National Federation's IT platform because right now we don't have like an online system that we can use, and it's not structured enough. You can reach in August, September, October, whenever you want, and say, we would like to have access to this program. And then the colleagues from FEI Solidarity would reach out and complete the necessary steps to do so. But 1 month for the rest of the programs. Oh, sorry, it skipped one. So about the timeline. So as I mentioned before, submission deadline for the projects that would be for 2027 is 1st of July. So if in 2027 you want to take action, 1 month to discuss internally and send this application. From July and October, the team at FEI Solidarity and together with the committee, they review the applications that they received. And they say, okay, makes sense to accept this application, or it's not convincing us, we deny it. Then in October, you get, and national federations get an application where they received, yes, we accept this and we're gonna allocate this budget to this, or it's not convincing us, that we think that there are some necessary steps, so we need to review it or reconsider. One thing that is helpful sometimes is if you send the application a little bit in advance, because it gives the possibility to discuss if there are some details that the FEI Solidarity team would like to know. If you send it in advance, they can check and say, oh, you know, this, maybe we can change this or adjust this, and it's going to be more easily accepted. And then 31st of December is the last day when you can send back the letter of agreement that has to be signed and returned by the Secretary General of the National Federation. So if in October you get notification your application was accepted, you have until end of December to send this letter back and say, we're doing this. And once this has been signed, you have 1 year to complete the project. So from 1st of January to the 31st of December. And then the following year, you need to send an evaluation form. This evaluation form is just a little, this is why I mentioned that you need one person responsible for managing the project, because you need to have a bit understanding who attended this program, how was it organized, the budget, and kind of document all the process and how this program has been developed. And now I want to make a stop to ask if there are any questions on this, because now we will go in detail in one of the new programs from the FEI Solidarity. So far, any questions, any doubts? Perfect. So then I will move on to discuss the new program that will start next year. So you can apply this year for this program, but you would implement it as you would be a pilot for this program next year in 2027. So this riders education program, there are some similar concepts. So if you know the galops, whether in Spain or in France, it's kind of a similar, but it's a bit more simplified and more accessible. So the idea is to provide an educational pathway for the riders that are just starting or are just not even sure that they want to compete, to those that are already actually starting to compete. And this program covers the 3 Olympic disciplines and endurance. The program focuses on riding skills, horsemanship, training, safety, ethical behavior. And also covers welfare of the horse and clean sport. So it's not the only focused on competition and competition skills and how to jump and so on. The first level is actually focused on basic knowledge and horsemanship. So how to lead a horse safely, how to know if my horse is sick. We will discuss this a bit more in detail, but just to get an idea. There are 2 levels to this certification: diploma and license. So the goals of this program are actually varied. And actually it affects the whole equestrian ecosystem, because it's not just benefiting the horse, because obviously if you have more educated athletes, you have better cared for horses. It also improves the NF structure and organization because you have a structured pathway to the clubs, to the competition, and so on. It also can generate financial income for the national federation if they have to pay for the license and the different accesses, the examination. It also means more active. There are more involvement of the coaches and the club, and there are more different goals to aim for other than just competing. And it also standardized the question practices globally, and not just the practices, but also the standard for welfare. So, like I said, if you have a control pathway, you know that every rider needs to be knowledgeable in certain areas. They will know how to tell if their horse is sick, how to tell if their horses need a vet, and so on. And it's not just, oh, I take my horse, I have a horse privately, and I just take him for a competition, even though I've never ridden a horse before. So there is a really more structural limitation that will ensure the well-being and the education both of the rider and the horse. So the two different levels, as I mentioned, diploma and the license. Diploma as a theoretical horse knowledge and practical skills. So really ride safely and very basic, ride safely and independently, know how to lead a horse, recognize what are the alarm factors in terms of a horse, if there's like a temperature, if they are sick, how to tell, understand the basics of dressage and jumping, and also have a good seat and use of the aids. So really, we're talking really beginner level to really just be able to say, okay, this person has a good understanding of equine welfare and can ride a horse. And then license is more focused to competition. So the knowledge is more discipline specific. And there's also a bigger focus on the national sport rules and the discipline specifically. So it will develop more on how to compete on this discipline, the foundations of this specific discipline, and also the rules, and as well as more advanced knowledge regarding the welfare and biosecurity of the horses. And finally, this program, so Riders Education Program, has some prerequisites because this is what is needed of the national federations to be able to ask to implement this project in their country. So they need to have a digital system for managing federation data, so an IT system. Otherwise, it's very difficult to keep track of who has a license, who has a diploma, how is it renewed. So to be able to do this is required. They need to have a structured program for training and for certifying coaches. This is the main, before going for athletes, this is of a bigger priority to say, okay, we have coaches that are capable and certified to teach these athletes and to have a really structured pathway. Organized system of competition levels for Olympic disciplines or endurance. So to be able to say, okay, to have access to 1 star, you need to be able to complete your license first. But you need to have a good understanding of how the structure is within your national federation before you can actually limit it and have more requirements for it. Education committee appointed by the National Federation to manage the program and select assessors. So they will be responsible to implement the program, but also to say who is qualified enough to go and do the evaluation and the assessment of the people who want to obtain a diploma or a license. So if you have these 4 prerequisites, you can apply for this Riders Education Program. If not, don't worry, because the FEI Solidarity has different programs that can support your NF to establish any of these prerequisites. So if you say, oh, I don't have an IT, it's okay. And FEI Solidarity has an IT system that you can apply for and you can implement, and then you will have the requirements for the Riders Education Program. So that was all from my side. I don't know if there are any questions.
I have a question, Ursula. You mentioned the three Olympic disciplines and endurance, but for these riders programs.
Yes.
Sorry, but there will be 4 different programs, I mean, or the riders altogether.
So for license is the same, for diploma, so basic level, initial level is the same, but for license, which is more specifically for competition, it will be specific for the different disciplines. So let's say beginners, everybody gets diploma, but then you say, okay, I want to do jumping. Then you do a specific license for jumping or specific license for endurance.
But then the advantage for the riders?
The advantage for the riders is to understand, to be qualified enough, because you know that sometimes people have access. There are national federations that don't limit or structure the access to competition. And then you have people or difficult situations that are not so friendly for the horse or the rider because of a lack of preparation and understanding.
So basically, it would be a training for riders to compete at international level.
Yes, the license, not international, each national federation can decide, no, this will be a requirement for national competition, or this will be for this level of national competition. But also for the diploma is to say, okay, we will have athletes or people at grassroots level will not just know how to ride a horse and get on a horse and go around the arena, but actually they will have a good understanding of how to tell if the horse is healthy, how to tell basic horsemanship knowledge that it's important to really have a good athlete, guardian community that are guardians of our horse and not just getting on the horse and going on the arena.
Okay, interesting. Thank you.
Any questions, whether it's about the Riders program or about the application for FEI Solidarity? Nothing? Okay. I will send either way the presentation. In the presentation, there's links to the catalog. You can check them. I'm also available in the emails that I send out is both my email and also my phone number. So I'm more than happy to, if you're not sure about the application or you're not sure what could be suitable for your national federation, I'm more than happy to organize a meeting and discuss a little bit more and see what would be a good fit. So without further, if there are no more questions, this is the last chance. Okay, no more questions. So just want to say thank you to everybody for joining. And also thank you again to Dr. Gianluigi and Simone Perillo for their presentation. And thank you very, very much. And if you have any questions, as mentioned, feel free to reach out. And we will send everything in the upcoming, either today or tomorrow, all the information. Thank you once again, and see you soon.